Добрый день, меня зовут Андрей Слободчиков, я работаю в компании HDRUS, руководителем отдела маркетинга и продукт-менеджмент. Как ведущий поставщик решений для предприятий, выпускающих упаковку из плоского и гофрированного картона на российском рынке, как никто другой, понимаем, что новое время требует новых решений. В прошлом мы всегда были рады вживую в наших демонстрационных центрах и на днях открытых дверей показать вам решение для выпуска картонной упаковки. Сейчас мы приводим демозал к вам. Далее вы увидите подробные технические презентации наших двух машин, которые помогут в дальнейшем развитии вашего упаковочного бизнеса. Высекальный пресс Easymatrix и фальцевально-склеивающая машина Easy от нашего партнера компании Masterwork.
Добрый день, меня зовут Роман Фролов, я работаю в компании HDRUS и занимаюсь оборудованием для производства складной картонной упаковки. Машина Easymatrix 106CS – идеальное решение для шага в мир складной картонной упаковки. Благодаря широкому спектру обрабатываемых материалов она интересна профессиональным производителям. Машина хорошо оснащена в стандартной комплектации. Моторизация, тонкие настройки, быстрозапорные рамы. Но также она может оснащаться опциями, доступными более производительным машинам.
Hi, I'm standing here in Hall 57, which is our commercial showroom. And there's a reason why we're here. In here we have a lot of commercial presses, guillotines, skull folders, and cutting systems from Polar. And the reason why we're standing here in front of an Easymatrix 106 CS is we believe it's the perfect partner for the commercial printer, but it also goes into the packaging segment as well. Easymatrix 106, sheet size 1060-760, and the minimum size of 300 by 350. What we'd like to show you today is a job changeover, and we'll start off with a simple 6-up crash lock carton, and then we will change to a 2-up tray. And we'll do that step by step, and we will show you the processes that you have to go through, and hopefully we will convince you that this is then a fast make ready, a quick turnaround machine, ideally suited for the short run work. So as you can see, the machine behind me is running at the moment. We're running around about 6,500 sheets an hour. The maximum machine performance is 7,700 sheets an hour. As you see, the machine is very stable in production. We've got a good transfer from the feeder onto the table, and then an accurate sheet transfer throughout the machine. So I think at this point, we've seen the machine running on the particular job. Maybe it's time now we should think about changing it over. So Tobias, can you change over the machine for us? Whilst Tobias is changing over the machine, we'll just walk through it and we'll talk you through the stages step by step. As you see, we have a driven pallet lift on there, and what you'll notice is that the pallet actually sits on a complete platform. And that platform we have the ability to move 20 millimeters, and that gives us the assurance that we have got the pallet in the correct position in the machine. What you'll also notice going through here when we take the pallet out is we have a centerline system which starts at the feeder and goes all the way through to the delivery. Now you can clearly see the center line and also the side guides. There is also a pre-pile alignment system that we can also offer with this machine if you're running a lot of B2, B1 sheets or variable sizes that you want to pre-align before you put them in to the machine. Now, one of the reasons we chose these two jobs is the different sheet size, and this would be one of the benefits of this particular machine in the adjustment of the feeder head itself. So we've got our pallet now in position. The suction head, obviously for the larger sheet, is much further back, but it's a very simple adjustment of that suction head, simply lift the lever and the whole head moves. That's a lot of time saving in terms of adjustment of the sheet size. But what's important, we also have the fine adjustment, which Tobias is just doing now. And as you expect on a machine like this, you have the ability to adjust your forward suckers and your lifting suckers, both in terms of height and also the angle that we can pick up. The machine is ideally suited for anything from around about 90 grams worth of paper up to 2,000 grams and 4 millimeters of corrugated. So a complete wide spectrum of substrates. What Tobias is now doing is he's just adjusting the side guides. Whilst we're standing at the feeder, we also have a manual non-stop operation where we can slide the bars into the pallet, and we can also keep running if we have that longer run work. So we've set our feeder. What we'll do now is we'll now take the tools out of the die cutting station, and we'll show you a few facilities within the die cutting station itself. Okay, so we now come to the heart of the die cutter, the cutting station. So now Tobias will unlock the tools. So what we have here, we have a couple of options here. We have the ability to work with, you'll see it when he takes it off, a 1 millimeter plate. Why do we use a 1 millimeter plate? We use that for a fast make ready system. So the idea of this is that when you've run the job the first time, you put this back into the machine and you put it back in virtually the same position as last time, with the ability to micro adjust that. So your make ready time is greatly reduced. Historically, you might have bedded that onto a 5 millimeter plate or a 4 millimeter plate in this case, which you can still do. And what you would then do is you might use something like a Ceto creasing line, or you might use some Pertinax matrices, which you would then mount directly onto a 5 millimeter flat table. With the 1 millimeter plate, as you see here, this was the job. We've already made ready this job in the past. He puts the plate on. These are already made and set onto the machine. He locks the plate back onto the 4 millimeter plate. And what you can see here on the side here is we have the ability to move that 1 millimeter plate. Tobias, how much are we moving this? About 0.9 of a millimeter?
Yes.
About 0.9 of a millimeter we can move that plate in both directions. And that's important because obviously what you need to make sure is your knife goes directly back into your creasing. So the 1 millimeter plate's been adjusted. He'll slide that back in. He'll lock it back up again. He'll unlock the upper tool, which is where the actual die itself is mounted. Now here we have again, it's almost like a balancing plate to make sure that we have as much even pressure going across the full width of the bed as we possibly can, and it also protects the patch-up sheet. What do we mean by a patch-up sheet? Tobias, just while you're standing there, we'll just take this here. So a patch-up sheet makes sure that we have even pressure from front to back and from left to right. And we use the tape here to make up any differences that we have when we're trying to make sure we have the same quality of creasing and cutting across the full size of the sheet. And that's a common practice. That's not something unique to this machine. That's a common practice that you'll have to do with every job. And there are many reasons. It's not necessarily the bed of the machine that affects that. It could also be the quality of the tooling. wear and tear of the tool in certain areas. So it's a vital part of a make ready for a die cutter. What Tobias is now doing is the die itself, we have to make sure that during heat build-up it doesn't bow in the middle of the die, so we have to positively lock it in with locking screws through into the bottom of the die. So we'll now turn that over, the chase over. And we have quick lock in the chase. Again, this is a perfect way of making sure that the die goes back in the same position as it was last time. And there are two things that here. We have the 2 points of locking it in, and we also have a centerline system. And hopefully you can just see that with this little block here in the middle. In the die board itself, there is also a small hole cut out, so we know that when we put the die in, it definitely goes back in the same position here. And with the clamping tools at the back here, we're putting the same amount of pressure on that die every time to lock it in position. Just before Tobias puts in the correct tool, I just wanted to show you something. We were talking about the notch in the wood. There's the notch in the wood. There's the die board going into it. Now obviously that die is much smaller than the chase itself, and these will not meet the back of the die board. So what we have is we have the ability to slide in an adapter bar. So an adapter bar, as you can see, has teeth on the end. We have teeth in the back of here, and we can lock it in. If we have very small differences in die boards, for example, if you're running perhaps a 104 size machine, we have adapter bars that actually just fit here and lock in with the initial and the original quick lock devices. Now, as we use here in a perfect scenario, you would use a full size board. The additional cost of the wood is almost nominal, but it also means that you always have that equal pressure throughout the bed of the machine. And then what we need to do is place balancing knives in the die. So again, so we have a uniform spread of pressure across the full width of the sheet. So again, Tobias will now lock that die back into place with a couple of locating screws. There are a few tricks in this area you can do to help you again reduce your make ready times. You can make your own recordings on the patch up sheet, for example. The amount of cutting pressure you used the last time you ran the job. You can also write some additional information on there as you put the patch up sheet in here now. Again, you're working off a centerline system. Your patch up sheet has a centerline. The chase is also etched with a centerline. And literally a little bit of sticky tape just holds the sheet down flat and stops it bellying up in the middle. Then we put our Pertinax plate back on the top. We slide the tool back in. You heard then that was pneumatic clamping going on, and now he will just lock the tool in position. So now we've pretty much got our die set. We might have to come back to this area later on just to perform a fine adjustment of the cutting plate to the die, just to make sure our creases are exactly in the right position. We will now move along the machine and we will change the stripping tools. Okay, so continuing on our make ready, we now need to address the stripping station. So Tobias now will raise the upper tool. Now on this machine we have quick lock, so with a simple, quick, easy release of the upper tool, we can then slide the upper tool out. Now what we are using here in this particular jobs are dedicated tools, supplied by the die maker as a set. So you'd have your die, your patch up sheet, your upper and lower middle stripping tools, And these obviously have advantages because they're more accurate and precise, and they match exactly to the die profile that we've produced in the die cutting stage. So the upper tool is out. We will now take out the middle board. The middle board there is really used to support the sheet and to enable us to press the waste we want to take out through that middle board. Again, this is a quick lock device, so the operator can simply and easily remove those tools, ready for the next job. We'll show you the alternative option in a moment. When we've finished this particular section, we'll go over to the more conventional, or perhaps the old-fashioned way of doing it, which is with universal tooling. So he now slides the bottom board in. Adjust the backstop. And again, quickly locks it up and it's in position. Now that's a dedicated tool for each and every job. And now slide in the upper tool. As I mentioned before, in the feeder and also in the cutting station, we still work off of a center line system. So we know, again, that all those tools are perfectly in line throughout the machine. So he slides the upper tool in, a little bit of fine adjustment, and locks it in place. And now lower the upper tool back down into position again. Shut the window. Now that section is pretty much set. In some jobs you might need bottom pins, but we'll cover the bottom pins again in a minute. But you still have the ability to slide a frame in the bottom of the machine mounted with bottom pins if you need that little bit of extra help in getting out perhaps very small pieces of waste or very intricate pieces of waste. So that's the stripping station. Two systems I mentioned before. One is dedicated quick lock devices, and the other is made manually with frames on perhaps on a pre-make ready table. You don't have to have a pre-make ready table. The machine comes standard with the frames and the tools, and the table is an option. But the table obviously is a more convenient area to mount both your upper pins and also your lower pins if you need them. And the lower pins obviously are spring loaded. You mount them in a frame on crossbars. You lay your sheet on the top and you can put the two tools together so you know that your upper and lower pins are in position. And you take those two frames, the upper and the lower, you take it out of the make ready table and then you slide them both in the machine. Make ready times obviously for this system is much longer depending on the complexity of the work that you've got to strip. And when you consider now when the cost of tooling is coming down, perhaps a saving is always, rather than the make ready time, you save it in terms of your up and running much quicker. So it's a combination. Tobias now has to change obviously the pallet. We've reduced again the size of the sheet, so we need to change the joggers, and we'll show you the other facilities within the delivery, i.e. as Tobias is just putting in here the non-stop rack. As you'd expect, it's a full body safety guard there, so I can't step in there without stopping the machine. Put the pallet back in. Because we broke that safety curtain, the blue light was flashing and we can't start the machine again until we repress that blue button. So also make sure that no one is in that part of the machine while someone else starts the machine. So pallet's now back in position. And we will now just show you one other item on the machine, which would be the tab inserter. Again, this might be very useful, particularly perhaps for commercial printers that want to make sure that they only send out a certain amount of work, so we can program within the computer how many sheets we want to run before we insert a tab, and we just keep repeating that until we run out that job. So it's a nice way of making sure that you deliver, whether it's 1,000 sheets or 10,000 sheets, you've got that option there to make sure that you've got an accurate count in there in stages of 50 or 100, whichever you require. So now the delivery is pretty much set in there. We might have to adjust some joggers when we get the first sheets through the machine. So we go back to the feeder and the feed table. And Tobias will bring the first sheet onto the table. And I'll just cross over. So what he's now doing, he has to adjust his side lays. This machine has both a left-hand side lay and a right-hand side lay, and both of those have the ability to push or pull. But what you don't need is you don't need tools to make that adjustment. So it's very simple, very quick to change to whichever system that particular job requires. And that's important, especially if you're running lightweight stocks and also corrugated and litho-laminate work. The machine itself is equipped with 4 front lays, and they are selected on the screen, so we can choose which lays we want to use. Normally you would use certainly the outer 2 for the larger sheet size and perhaps the inner 2 for the smaller sheet sizes. But we can actually select that on the screen, so we're not restricted to that. It's not actually on this machine, but what we do have an option in this area is we have an option of adding a vacuum table, so we have a couple of vacuum belts in there. So if we want to suck the material down onto that table, we can, and that can be important for lightweight and also heavier weight stocks if we've got some curl in the board. The actual furniture on the table is a quick adjustment. As you can see here, it's a centralized adjustment. We can still adjust things individually, but 95% of the time you don't need to do that. On this machine you see a lot of these black pipes here. That's an anti-static device, so if you're running some sensitive surfaces, we have that option available as well. So now we've got our sheet, it's gone into the die cutting station, in through the stripping station, and we'll take a test sheet out at the back in the delivery. That's also a nice thing about putting the rack in, it's very simple to get it out. And he will now check the quality of what is actually run on the job. Now, to protect the die itself, he would have backed some of the pressure away, so he won't have cut all the way through the material. Otherwise, we run the risk of damaging the make ready itself. But it looks pretty good for a first hit. So I think you're just going to make a couple of adjustments. While he's doing that, we've got a couple of tools to show you. Now, we said at the beginning, this is an ideal machine for the commercial printer. So commercial printers perhaps doing kiss cutting, they might be doing a lot of creasing work without doing a lot of cutting in there. So we can actually have some specialized dies. As a good example of this one, it's a universal die with creasing tool. So there's your creasing knife in here, but as you can see, I can mount that anywhere in that die itself. So I'm not restricted to having to buy a new die every time. I buy some creasing rule or a cutting rule, and I can place that anywhere in this tool. Embossing. Because of the amount of pressure we can apply up to 260 tons of cutting pressure. The machine is also ideally suited for embossing, for high quality embossing. And what we have here is a universal embossing plate. So here I can screw into there my embossing blocks. Again, it's a universal tool, so I can put them pretty much anywhere I want to in that die, so I don't have to buy a specific die for every single job. And these are the sort of tools that we're developing with our partners to make sure it gives you the solutions that you need to make it a little bit more cost effective when you're doing multiple jobs in different substrates and for different applications. So certainly embossing, de-embossing, kiss cutting, creasing, So production wallets, cartons, paper jobs on here are all standard types of work that we can produce on an Easymatrix 106. So whilst I've been showing you the tools, Tobias has just come back up onto the machine, and he will now make a couple of fine adjustments. So he will lower the upper tool to the middle tool, he'll lock it in position, and he will check obviously that they're perfectly married top and bottom. We'll now put a sheet onto the feed table. Take it into the cutting station, we'll cut it with a little bit more pressure on than the last time we did. We'll strip the waste. And we'll deliver it onto the non-stop rack. What he's got to do now, he's obviously got to adjust, because we've changed the size of the sheet in both directions, he's got to adjust the side joggers. So he just released here, pushed it in, and now he'll lock it back up again. Does the same on the drive side. So quick, simple adjustments depending on the sheet size that you're running. And in comes the back. Okay, so that sheet we've gone through, we'll just run another one through. So now we're up running at 6,000 sheets an hour. Just run a good handful of product. And he'll now take one of the test sheets out and make sure the quality is happy with it. So the racks come out. So Tobias now has just taken a sheet to test now the quality. which looks pretty spot on to me. And it's also a good example of what we're actually taking out in terms of the stripping, as you can clearly see the areas that we've taken out. We can actually go a little bit further in certain jobs. Obviously we need enough material to draw it all the way through the machine, but you can take off the sides and also the back edge if required. So yeah, that's good to go. So we'll now ramp the machine up. So we've made our make readies, we've changed our tools, we've checked our quality, and we're now increasing the machine speed steadily. We're now up to just under 7,000 sheets an hour. And again, the importance here is stability. It's all very well trying to run the machine at full speed, but if it keeps stopping and starting, it really makes no sense. And it's the sheets on the floor that count at the end of the day. So the Easymatrix 106 CS, also available just as a cutting machine as well without the stripping section, is an ideal machine and an ideal accompaniment for your commercial print factory and also your packaging factories if you're looking to enhance what you already have. As we said at the beginning, 7,700 sheets a minute, high-speed production machine with quick make-ready times and good repeatability in your make-readies. So hopefully one day we'll get you in front of this machine here in Hall 57, the commercial showroom for Heidelberg, or perhaps in one of our packaging showrooms up in Hall 11. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we've given you a little insight into the abilities and the possibilities with the Easymatrix 106. Thank you, Tobias. Thank you very much.
Новые тенденции рынка складной картонной упаковки требуют новых решений. Тиражи сокращаются, номенклатура изделий растет. Новые игроки, производящие картонную упаковку, не всегда могут себе позволить дорогостоящее периферийное оборудование класса Diana X и Diana Smart для производства коробок. При создании машины Diana Easy использовались имеющиеся наработки известных машин Diana X и Diana Smart. Задача сокращения стоимости оборудования решена путем уменьшения возможных комбинаций стандартных модулей известной машины Diana Smart. Модули фальцовки, предфальцовки самоскладного дна имеют общий привод. Машина в стандартном оснащении может выпускать коробки с самоскладным дном. Diana Easy существует в двух ширинах – 85 и 115 см. Максимальная скорость работы машины – до 350 метров в минуту. Diana Easy сохранила эргономику высокоскоростных машин Diana X и Diana Smart и уникальный клеевой аппарат. Модули и инструменты машины унифицированы и взаимозаменяемы.
Hello and welcome to a brief presentation on the Diana Easy. The machine I'm standing here beside. We will start off with a presentation and we will make ready this carton, the standard straight line box, which we will make ready in the background while I'm talking to you and explaining a little bit about the machine, because it will also show a little bit about the flexibility and also the speed that we can make our basic settings at, and some of the facilities that will help us achieve that. Now the Diana Easy is probably our most popular machine and has been very successful in particularly the Asian market. And one of the reasons behind that is it's very, very flexible. So we can start off with a basic construction, which will enable us to produce straight line and crash lock cartons, but we can also grow that machine to also cater for your expanding needs. So maybe you want to produce 4-corner and 6-corner boxes at a later stage. We can change and develop the machine to do that for you. And there's a reason for that, and I'll explain that when we walk down the machine and the sections that we have in the machine, which will show us why we can do that so simply. A little bit about where we position the machine. It's a machine that's ideally suited for both the packaging and also the commercial market. And we say the commercial market because it's equally adept at running pocket folders or maybe very lightweight paper stocks, as you can see here, with a shirt button or a shirt collar sleeve. But because it's a Diana, it also gives us the flexibility to run standard cartons, and very small cartons at that. So little sort of eyeliner pencil cartons or very small sweet cartons. standard straight line cartons, which we will show you in a minute. Then we also have things like chip soups, standard carton, simple folds, bottle top carriages. So it's not just a straight line and crash lock machine, it's a flexible machine, and we'll explain a little bit about why it's so flexible as we walk down through the machine. By adding the 4 and 6 corner hooks, we also have the possibility, if this was a lock bottom base, we can also do the rear folding of a Euro slot, as well as the conventional 4 corner cartons and also 6 corner cartons. So we have that flexibility if we need it. And if you're looking at perhaps pharmaceutical cartons, we also have the possibility then to install an inline ejection system combined with a code reader and also quality control in terms of glue line application control. So a machine that can do pretty much everything. And on top of that, we can also now add the inline inspection module, which will give us the ability to quality control every single carton that runs down through the machine in terms of the contents of the carton, the color printed ability of the carton, and everything on the carton that we need to inspect and verify is identical. So we have complete flexibility in what we can offer you with a basic machine, the Dyna Easy. So let's walk up to the feeder and have a look as we go down the machine. As I say, our operator is setting the machine up for a straight line carton. And what we've also done is we've put on the back of the folder gluer, we've put the semi-automatic packing aid so we can show you a complete process. So we can then utilize the performance ability of the Dyna Easy as well. So what we're going to show you now is the basic machine configuration and a few of the additional options that are available to give you a very brief overview. So we start here with the feeder. This is a standard feeder. This is standard on all of our machines. So whether you have the very high-end Dyna X or the Dyna Easy, it's the same feeder construction. We have the ability to change the feeder belts in a matter of minutes, just by simply undoing 2 nuts and loop the belt off. Very simple, very easy to change, good for an operator change rather than having an engineer to change it. The feeder gates, we can turn them at either end, and that enables us to take away some of the pressure from the feeder tip itself and enable a smooth transition into the blank aligning station, the next standard module. So the blank aligning station we have here, we have the ability to align to the left-hand side and also the right-hand side. And with the option of the top carriage, we also then have the ability to control perhaps tapered cartons a little bit better than without it. We simply take the pressure off of the rollers by locking off the switch carriers. We have the ability to move the aligning bar 50 millimeters. So if we have a window in the middle of our carton, we can move it out the way. So these are all facilities that give you a quality production and help to remove any marking issues. The next section we move into, standard section, 2.5 meters of pre-fold. You'll see here we have some light gates. These light gates are only on the machine when we run 4 and 6 corner cartons. So if you only have a straight line and lock bottom carton machine, we don't have these light guards in this position. We don't need the light guards at all. So the pre-fold section, and there's a good example here of why this machine is so easy to operate, because we have the ability to step into the machine, so we don't have to keep running around the back of the machine to make some changeovers. So it's very ergonomic for that point of view. The carriages themselves have a standard profile on the top, which gives us the facility to mount attachments all the way down the machine, from the feeder all the way down to the final fold section. It's a common system. So glue guns can be mounted very simply, or folding attachments equally easily. Very sturdy construction. So we don't have the problems of carriages moving during running perhaps heavier material like corrugated. We said before, whether it be paper or corrugated, it doesn't matter to this machine, and that's because all the roller bearings run in one direction. And because they're spring loaded, we have the ability then to adapt it. As you can see, Stefan's just set that machine up with a straight line carton using a facility called DigiSet, which we'll explain a little bit later on. Also standard is the next module, which is the combination fold module. Now the key here is that this may be a straight line and lock bottom machine, but then we can do the majority of our lock bottom folding in this section. And that gives us the whole pre-fold then to enable us to do complete pre-folds. So if you're running very long cartons, you've got a long 2.5 meter pre-fold section so that you can pre-fold it down pretty much to 180 degrees, and that gives us the facility to make sure that we don't tear the third crease line, because we're not whipping the carton up and down. We're slowly transferring it in both ways. Now, the combination fold module is standard on the machine. However, if you wanted to retrofit 4 and 6 corner, or have 4 and 6 corner at the very beginning, this is where we would mount our rear folding shafts. So the rear folding shafts are here and here, and that opens the machine up to a completely different gambit of cartons. So 4 corner, 6 corner, some special rear folding and some special construction cartons then all become possible. Following the combination fold module, we come down to the final stages. We have the standard bottom glue pot. Now, this bottom glue pot has been designed to run at 650 meters a minute. So we have the 650 meters a minute glue pot on a 350 meter a minute machine, in combination with a final fold section, where we have a little bit of flexibility here. Because of the way the carriages are mounted, we can fold left before right, right before left, or we can also fold centrally. Also important is the way we track our belts. All the belts in the machine don't require a shaft to be removed, and that's because they're wrapped positively around the pulleys. So an area like this, for example, we can actually influence the speed of the transfer belts on the left and the right hand side simply by moving it down the adjustable pulley. We also have the 3 roller system here, which gives us great transfer of the belt and great guidance of the belt. Because the rollers are domed, the belt will always ride to the highest point of the machine. Now, these are all small points that give you the quality of the machine that we have. Down to the side frame itself, very, very strong, sturdy construction. The machine is designed to last. This is built on true Heidelberg and Jagenberg traditions. One other option is a center carriage here. So we have a center carriage in the bottom and also on the top. And then we come down into the transfer section, and also another possible option, the inline reject system. So the inline ejector really is going to be used for all carton styles. We can also supply the machine with a standard linear ejector, but obviously the advantage of an inline ejection system is all shapes and sizes are easily ejected inline and come directly down under the machine here. Our operator's just looking at the standard interface here. When it's finished, we'll just turn it back round to you. So you can see here, 350 meters a minute, 91,000 cartons an hour. But it also gives us the ability to store jobs. So we can record our job data to make it very simple. So if you have maybe changing operators on a regular basis, the knowledge of the company stays in-house. All that data is stored here. We also have a facility called DigiSet. Now, DigiSet gives us 2 facilities. It gives us different carton profiles on the top here, which we then select the profile we want. We put in some critical data, some measurements, and we also decide whether we want to align left or right or centrally, and also decide whether we want to pre-fold. So we select that. That information is then calculated. It's sent down to the digital indicators, and hopefully we can just about see one here. It has 2 sets of numbers on there. The second set we have to wind to 0, so anybody can wind a machine carriage to 0. So all the way along the machine, everything is adjusted to 0. So the carriages then move left and right. The beauty of that is you know that whatever you're going to do later on in your make ready, your basic carriage formations are in the correct position. We come down to one of the key areas, which is the trombone section. So we have a lot of adjustment possibilities here to make sure that we accurately transfer the blank from the folder gluer onto the delivery belt. One thing I didn't mention actually, in a good combination with DigiSet is a system called DriveSet, and that takes away the manual adjustment of the side carriages left and right by putting motorized on them, so we can then just press a button and the carriages will move automatically as well. It's the next level of speeding up the make ready process. So back to the delivery conveyor. So we have a nice delivery conveyor designed specifically for the belt speed that the machine can run. So it's a calculation between the belt speed and the length of the conveyor to make sure we get some fiber tear at the end of the delivery section. We have the ability here obviously to control the cartons coming in, and that's important when you start to run jobs like this. Some of these horrible lock bottom jobs which are very difficult to control, and we can control that by using both the brushes here and maybe an air jet off of the jet glue application system. When we look at glue application, we work pretty much with HHS, which is well renowned throughout the world for the quality of glue application, and the size of the glue nozzles go very, very small in terms of the small cartons we have to glue. So when you start gluing boxes, you know, like this, or maybe like very small cartons like this, we have that flexibility to do this. I said to you at the beginning we would show you a complete line at high speed. Now we also have a semi-automatic packer here. Now the beauty of a semi-automatic packer is it gives us that little bit more time to take off. It also presents the carton slightly differently because it's turning the carton onto its edge, as you can see on the return conveyor here. The nice advantage of a semi-automatic packer is it handles more carton styles. It's not just a straight line packing machine. We can certainly handle four-corner trays, some lock bottom boxes, some specialty cartons can all be run down here and make the life of the person packing a lot easier. Normally we would have some kind of tilting packing table, and once the case is filled, the tilt table goes down and it can roll off onto a conveyor. So that very, very briefly is the Dyna Easy. So some key points again. Flexibility. It's a machine that can grow with your needs. It's a straight line and crash lock machine that we can expand to 4-corner and 6-corner. It's equally adapted in the high quality market with the adaptation and the introduction of modern technology in inline inspection systems, which can be set via a PDF, so your operator is not setting the quality himself, it's coming down from another department. So we have total control of whatever is running through the machine. And that really is the key. Whether we're inspecting or just running general carton styles, we have positive control of the blank from the moment it leaves the feeder all the way down through the packing solutions that we have here. So an ideal machine for pretty much all carton styles, and is equally at home in packaging or commercial houses. So hopefully we've given you a little bit of food for thought, some interesting points there to dwell upon. But please contact your local guys for more information, and they'll be more than happy to help you. So thank you for watching.
На этом наша демонстрация закончилась. Спасибо, что были с нами. До новых встреч!